lot of good projects that will make a progress in the region, that will have impact on the ground, and then in the end both deliver results for the program but also for the strategy. And in this respect, of course, my expectation would be that we use all the existing synergies that are presented by the strategy, by the program, because basically we talk about the same region, and we talk about the same challenges, we talk about the same goals to achieve. And the strategy, which is more political, can give an excellent backing for projects that can then maybe have better access to policymakers, that can have an influence on policies and not only work on an operational project level. So my expectation would then also be that we manage to create this interlink of the strategy and the program, but also of the other funding sources. If by the projects we want to change policies, if we want to prepare investments, we need more actors on board than just the strategy actors.
Thank you very much. Let me or allow me please start a little bit skeptically. A couple of days ago there was a Jean-Claude Juncker presenting State of the Union report in the European Parliament, and he mentioned that he explicitly said that the European Union is not in a good state, and there is not enough Europe in the European Union, and there is not enough union in the European Union. Of course, he mentioned this in a certain context, but I think that it has a broader meaning. What I mean, when I'm meeting common people in my neighborhood, their expectations are very, very big. Some people are optimistic in relation to the EU, some are pessimistic, but when it comes to meeting our obligations and our commitments, people are usually thinking in a rather narrow way. And what we have to do, and in this respect, the Danube program could contribute to this meeting, to this objective, is to dismantle this narrow thinking. I think that we should also start to build our regional identity or regional responsibility from bottom. That means to apply the bottom-up approach. Here, building partnerships is responsible, is important. Building partnerships which will survive after the end of projects, because it sometimes happens that when the project funding is completed, also the project is ending. So this is something where we have to do a lot of things, and the Danube program, together with other initiatives, could help us. Along with the European initiatives, there are also some initiatives which are broader than the European Union. I mean, a couple of, in 2012, there was a World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, and very, very ambitious sustainable development goals have been adopted, which also the European Union and our region will have to deal with. And I hope, and my expectation is that the Danube transnational programs can contribute with a reasonable portion in meeting these global objectives. So basically these are my expectations related to the new program.
Yes, what are my expectations for the new program? We expect huge interest, not only in the first call, but in general for the Danube Transnational Program. We witness in the other transnational programs in which Austria is participating, the central and the alpine space, this huge interest. There are quite many expressions of interests. There is quite substantial competition for the funds, and we expect that this will be also the case in this program area, which I think is not only to be seen as a competition, but it's also a task for us on the management side, program managers, to meet these expectations. But the point I want to make here, it's also a task for you as project applicants, because we expect not only many, but we expect good projects. This is easy said, and as a representative of the Commission said, this good project notion is full of dimensions. I just want to mention a few. You hear a lot about result orientation. You will hear more about in the presentations. You will hear about indicators. You will read about templates to be filled in. But my point, my message to you is, it's not a linguistic exercise. My plea would be, try to tell a convincing story with your project. Be inspiring with what you want to do. Inspiring for yourself, for your partners, for all the relevant partners on all the levels. In Austria, these programs are very important for regions, municipalities, others. So try to build this partnership, this sustainable partnership. So something inspiring for yourself, for others, also for policymakers, also for those involved in macro-regional strategies, for the politicians to show visible results, and so on. I think this is the potential of the program, and I hope, I don't know if I can dare to say expect, but I hope that we go in this direction, because, to be also very outspoken, 200 million sounds much, but 260 millions for this huge area, this will not change the world, and not this area either. So it's not an investment program, somehow decreasing the gap which we show on the GDP map, but which can give incentive, examples, should stimulate actors to do better with a multiplying effect in other programs, in other policies. And here exactly I see the link also with the Danube strategy. This is a funding program where these examples should be developed, be implemented, but at the same time they should be embedded into this policy debate, into the strategic debate, and I absolutely see this win-win situation of bringing it together. Also to pick up the Slovak colleague's point, we had Commissioner Crețu on Monday in Vienna. She has a press conference there, and of course there were questions also on the migration issue, and her response, and I don't dare to quote the commissioner, but I can quote my state secretary, because the message there was, Interreg is very important to build this fabric of cooperation in a sustainable way on different dimensions, in order then to have this fabric also present when there is certain crisis or disruption in cooperation. I'm already long, but I want to do a second message. I want to pass a second message, because this is also a key word, simplification. And you will hear that we have tried our best, and it's simpler than before, and so on. But of course, it remains complex. And of course, this area is also the mixture of the most complex administrative cultures. So even if the program is easy on the partnership, you will meet complex situations. So please, we can't change this. But you can change this by being simple in your project design. Don't go for the last 20% in all the dimensions. This is a message we try to pass on to the Austrian partners. We not always succeed, but this would reduce the complexity substantially if the projects keep within the safe 80% and try to avoid the 20% complexity trap. So this is a message I also want to pass, because it is in your hands, and not on the program management side hands, to reduce the complexity.
Hi everybody. I would like to, I also have two major, or we have two major expectations, or better say wishes. One is for all of us to understand what is the cooperation spirit, because it is not a formal issue, it is a mental issue. In Romania, we have a saying that says like that. I will say it in Romanian and then try to translate it. Unde e unul nu-i putere, unde-s doi, puterea crește. That means when there is one, there is not so much power and strength. When there are two or more, the strength gets stronger. And in fact, this is cooperation. If this is understood as it should be understood, then all the others, all the needs, all the challenges, all what involves the management, the complex management of a transnational project will become very easy. You will find the right arrangements to come to very good results. And if this is understood and this mental change, if it takes place, then the cooperation will not end once the transnational project has ended. Because, and now I come to our major wish and expectation, which is related to capitalization of results. As my colleagues said, the amount of this allocated to this program, the financial amount is not much for the needs, and will not solve the real investment needs for the region. These investments will be solved only in a higher and in a more coherent way, only if cooperation will take place between the countries that are connected to the Danube region. If the countries, regions, institutions, and humans, because we are humans and we are behind the scene, if we understand to cooperate and why it is important to cooperate, why it is important to first to prepare through this program pre-feasibility or a feasibility study for a real investment that will cut across the region, and this investment could be financed from a national program or from other sources, financial sources that could bring the real financial need for such major investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be among EU member states. I will start first from maybe from how I see the macro-regional strategies and then go back to the program. Since I'm a civil engineer, we had on faculty, one of my professors have said that the best way to make a park is to first make a park and then to do the infrastructure. And how to do the infrastructure is to leave people to walk through the park and then to pave the paths, because that's the best way to have really something that is useful to people. Previously I have heard the people saying in previous financial perspective, okay, these regulations, they're too rigid. We are cooperating, we need more flexible solutions. The regulations are like trying to put a cube, Rubik cube, through a round hole, you know, you smash it with a hammer. So Commission, please understand us better. So there you go. You have the macro-regional strategy, which is provided by the Commission as a park. And now, for people who are implementing the strategy, their task is to walk through the park. What we did in the transnational program is we have made just one path. We are just one path through the park, and it's a rather narrow path. It's more narrow for non-member states, because you have seen Imre's presentation. 2 to 2 millions for non-member states is 20 million. So the size of this program for non-member states is 20 million euros for 7 years for 3 countries. So it's even more narrow than for the member states. So now we have made the transnational program, and the Commission is putting blocks behind us and paving that path that we made. One of the blocks is definitely this part of the program who is supporting administratively the strategy, and other blocks will support some of your ideas that complement the strategy. So in this respect, I would like to ask you, what I expect from a program. I expect huge interest, but I'm afraid that we cannot meet the whole expectations, especially because the people, as far as I can see, because I spoke to the people, they just see that one path, because it's program strategy and not trying to find another path through the park. So please try to use the program as some initial, or try to use it in the best way to help you to prepare and implement and approach other funding in order to really support the implementation of the strategy. Help us to help you, I mean help a program to help you all implementing the strategy in the best way, because with the, you know that we have procedures that they are flexible but not flexible enough. So we will have very difficult task to choose among good projects, to choose the ones that will contribute the program but also the strategy. So please make a best of it, and we will try to help you as much as we can. So thank you once more.
Thank you. So I think that to summarize what you all said, it seems that there are two main messages. One is what you're expecting from the program, and the other message is what you're expecting from the applicants. So from the program, definitely you would like that supports the strategy, that it's somehow embedding the strategy inside the whole work of the program in order to contribute to create good and relevant and strategic project for the area, even though I understand there is some skepticism that it's still somehow surrounding this area. On the other hand, the fact that you would like to make the program useful to people is somehow sending a message also to the applicants, saying that use the program in the best way you can, try to be inspiring, trying to be innovative in the way you're using. Yes, the money is not big, but it's a quite competitive program. So I think that's why we are asking the applicants to be a bit more innovative, to look outside the box and try to see what we are offering and what the strategy behind is offering us. So, as we can see, we could see and hear, the Danube Transnational Program is in the core consideration of the European Commission, and therefore I'd like to ask to Mr. Rodriguez Said, from the EU perspective, what makes the Danube Transnational Program special? Because we do like to think that we are special, so we would like to ask Mr. Rodriguez Said what is your thoughts about it?
Yes, of course you are special. And I think this relates to the big expectations that everybody mentioned. What we expect from the program, this makes you special. Because since this morning we have been trying to explain what is in the program, what kind of specific objectives, priorities the program has selected during the negotiation process. The program was approved in August, so it's a very recent document now that we are starting to implement. We are launching today the first call for all the priorities. But this is really, the speciality comes as well because this geographically matches with the geography of the strategy. What does it mean? In 2011, there was a request from member states in the Council during the Hungarian presidency to the Commission to elaborate a strategy for the area. This means that there was a need for an integrated framework, for a big instrument to identify the priorities, identify the common challenges and possible common responses, flagship projects that could help to overcome those challenges. And this is where we are now, because we could say that the programs at that moment, when in 2011 and onwards, the strategy was defining, it was perhaps a bit late to count on the programs of the 2007-2013 period. But now we don't have excuse anymore. So we have the new programs starting now, cooperation programs, national, regional programs, and at least in what concerns DG Regio, this is a clear message from our side, that the speciality of the situation is that the macro-regional strategy should be taken into account, as it has been the case during the programming phase, during the whole implementation phase, till the end of the program, talking about 2022, 2023, because this is a long period. We are starting now. We want you to be innovative, but we want you to keep the momentum till that moment. So this is a big request, but I think that this really deserves attention and worth the value to make an effort.
Thank you, Mr. Said. We heard the Commission and their position on how important the link with the strategy is. So now we can hear directly from the representatives from the strategy in our panel how this is perceived from the strategy itself. So I'd like to ask Ms. Diegelmann how much the macro-regional strategy and the Danube transnational program shall interlink.
Well, as I mentioned before, both strategy and the program cover the same region and work on identical challenges, so the answer can only be that they should interlink as much as possible. However, for me the question is, what do we really mean with interlinking? Often this interlink is somehow limited to the question how the program could finance the strategy, or more concretely, how different bodies of the strategy, like the priority area coordinators or some projects developed within the strategy, could be financed. And often we have also been confronted with expectations like, we have a project in the strategy, so there should be a bonus point, there should be an advantage. And I think that's very much limited to one direction. We should also look at the other direction. So how can the strategy support the program and the projects? And as I already said, there is a lot of opportunities in this cooperation, because the strategy, coming from a more political level, being implemented in the countries, owned by the political representatives, can give a boost to some projects, or can easier make them sustainable by support from steering groups and by support also from the national decision makers. But also the program has a lot to offer to the strategy. There will be some real good projects, and I'm sure that can create impact, but that have never heard of the strategy before. So the challenge is also how to bring those projects in contact with the strategy actors, how to link them to the different steering groups, and how to see that we don't work on the same issues in parallel, coming from more project perspective or coming from a strategy perspective. And then, of course, the interlinking should not end with meeting on a regular basis, but we should really create this mutual understanding. And there, during the programming process, I've seen a lot of developments. In the beginning, it was like two separate camps, programming and strategy people, who were sometimes not aware of what the other group is working on, and sometimes even in one country there was a lot of efforts to have these people cooperate, and now we are meeting regularly. We have the Danube Strategy Point that is an observer in both groups, and I think if we just let some time go by, we will have this real understanding for each other, and that's the basis for projects to be developed jointly, and that would in the end be the type of interlink I could imagine. We in Baden-Württemberg, we have already started with organizing events together, or having consultancy with project promoters together, or if we realize there is a good project not yet in touch with the strategy, we signpost them to the right people. And I think that's a process that still needs some time, but in the end can then really create this interlink so that everyone can benefit from what the program and also what the strategy has to offer. But I would even go one step further and look at the mainstream operational programs in the different countries, because these are important financial sources to take up the results from the different Danube projects and to make them sustainable. As it was said, if the project financing ends, the project often ends, and if there is no one to take up or to use the results, that can be money that is lost. So that's why at the annual forum this time, for the first time, we have not invited the ministers of foreign affairs, but we have invited the ministers in charge of European funding in the different countries to discuss how the strategy could be embedded in the different programs, or more concretely, how the provisions that are already there can now be put into concrete action in order to interlink in a way all the programs with the strategy.
Thank you. And I would like actually to follow to what you just said and ask then Mr. Kolociani, which are the benefits? You already mentioned some of the benefits for the Danube program, but then I would like Mr. Kolociani to express more this point. So the benefits for the program to have stronger synergies with the strategy.
Well, first of all, we have to realize what are the roles to be played by Danube strategy and the Danube program. First of all, we have to realize that the Danube strategy is a strategy, providing some policy orientation for the Danube countries. I was participating in the preparation of the Danube strategy from the very beginning, somewhere in 2009, and I remember our meetings on the national level in the government office. We had a very fruitful discussions with our partners in line ministries, and we were trying to define our priorities for the Danube strategy, and I'm sure that this happened also in the other partner states. That means that when the preparatory process ended, the major output was a very comprehensive, very complex strategy, really defining the major problems, the major issues which we are facing in our region. On the other hand, we have Danube transnational program, which is a a financial tool, and this defines the relationship between the program and the strategy, and also this defines the mutual synergies, because the benefits should be two-way process. It's not possible that only one of these initiatives have benefits from synergies with the other one. So I understand that the Danube strategy provides a policy framework, policy orientation, and the Danube transnational program should provide some financial resources to implement the objective of the strategy. This is not something which is only in our heads, which is only our wish, but this is based in the legislation, in the regulations which were published for the 2014-2020 programming period. And these regulations explicitly say that the money from European structural and investment funds have to or should, if appropriate, contribute to meeting the objectives of macro-regional strategies. So the Danube transnational program is not an isolated island here. Of course, there are the other operational programs, mainstream operational programs, which have to contribute to these objectives too. An important role in seeking synergies between program and Danube strategy can be played by national consultation platforms which exist in many Danube countries. In my country there is a consultation group for Danube strategy, which also involves people from other ministries dealing with operational programs. And we are lucky, specifically in Slovakia, because the same unit within the government office is responsible both for the Danube strategy and also for the Danube transnational programs. But in other countries there is also, I think, the possibility that these platforms for Danube strategy invite people working on transnational programs. So I think that these are the basic benefits for both, for the Danube transnational program having synergies with EU SDR, and the opposite, for the EU SDR having synergies with program.
Thank you. Well, we spoke a lot about the Danube strategy, but the Danube transnational program is not only about the Danube strategy, obviously. We mentioned earlier about other transnational programs in the area. Some are overlapping part of our territory, some others are actually covering other macro-regional strategies. So I would like to ask to Mr. Arter, which would be the connections with the other Interreg programs in the area, specifically the transnational programs?
I would like to pick up the picture of the park. I think when you regard the Danube region as the park, as our park, then of course it's not a park with walls. It's some open area. There are no walls and fences hopefully around. So of course this definition of the park is a top-down decision. And you saw when the picture was shown about the history of this area, the size and the configuration of this area, developed over time. We had a very huge park, and now it's changing the shape. But it's given. For the program, I think this is given, and it's quite a large area. Of course, it never fits with functional relations. When you work on navigation, then maybe it makes sense to go a little bit beyond the border, or to work with other ports. Or on each subject, there's of course functional relationships, which of course have to be considered. As I said, it's not a closed world. And on the implementation side, I think many of you are thinking of finding good solutions by splitting project ideas or into different programs and so on. On the implementation side, I think we are very cautious of opening too much flexibility. You will hear afterwards this option of 20% flexibility to partners outside. We will not propose for the first call, and speaking for Austria, we will be also very prudent and for the future, but of course we will discuss. The area is large, and there are other ways of organizing these linkages. Yes, and I think this is not an administrative obstacle. I think within this huge area there are other challenges which I think are also part of the challenge. The Danubian space is full of disparities and so on, and also to speak out as an Austrian representative, it's not the objective to allocate most of the funds on the activities in the northwest edge of the park. So this is also inside the logic, but to go there is not by separating funds. It's again in your hands in developing these project ideas in a way that this balancing of partnerships, even with non-member countries, are becoming reality. It's not a question of criteria, it's a question of project development. Yes, and of course of thinking linkages with other programs. Maybe a last word on other programs and the link to the strategies. I also share the view that on the national level this is crucial, that you try to bridge between the different program committees, between strategy committees and program committees, because at least in smaller countries, at the very end, it's the same institutions, the same persons, or the coordination on the national level towards these various initiatives is crucial. Last remark, and to be aware of the different formal status and institutional settings. It has been said very often, a program is a program and a strategy is a strategy. It makes a difference. The program has a regulation and has specific tasks. The macro-regional strategy has still a very soft governance mechanism with soft elements. So it's not about restructuring only, but it's also considering different types of governance and government elements when building the relationships. I think this is also something which has to be explored and to develop as a win-win situation, to avoid any competition or waste of resources, but also institutional competition, to speak out very frankly.
Thank you. The Managing Authority earlier introduced the 4 thematic priorities that the program will be supporting, highlighting in this case the direction that the Danube Transnational Program chose to follow in this new programming period. And all 14 partner states of the program, including also different national stakeholders, took part in the development of the cooperation program, which is the core document behind the Danube Transnational Program. So I would like to ask to Ms. Vojnea, I am not pronouncing correctly for sure, which are the countries' common needs and challenges which are reflected in the cooperation program?
The umbrella is what you said. Yeah? We have managed to, during the planning of this program, of this transnational program, we have managed to identify 4 priority axes, and as Imre presented, these are innovation and social responsibility, environmental and culture, connectivity and energy, and governance of Danube region. And under this, we have the investment priorities. How we reached to this, based on the 11 thematic objectives of the regulation, we had to choose 4. we chose four by the discussions and based on an analysis that the experts made on the whole area, and then each national authority that was presented and representing the national interest in the planning committee came with the national input and national interest. How each country identified this national interest was based on the national documents or on the partnership agreements that were under elaboration at national level, and also consulting you. I'm sure that each country has its group of national stakeholders that are constantly consulted. In Romania, I know for sure we have this national committee specific for this program. And at the end, there was a joint decision in the planning committee, and we identified these four priority axes and investment priorities. To say it like that, we did our job. Now it's on you. Why I say it? Because the identification of common needs and challenges is not a only a national issue. We are gathered 14 countries around the table, and we identified which are the common needs and challenges, and then that's all. The story ends. No. In fact, in order to have at the level of each project that is developed, in order to have needs and challenges identified, that means that at the national, regional, institution, and human level that are involved in a project, and this is at the level of each project, there is compatibility of interests. And in order to reach this compatibility, which will finally lead to real added value project, each partner, and partner, as I told you, is not only even institutional, it's only also human attitude, needs to know you need to know which are your needs, which are your potentials. In fact, you need to know, and based on that, you will know what to seek and whom to seek. Yeah, this is basic. Yeah, if you are very clear at this point, then all the other will be very clear. All the way that will lead to a successful project will be very clear. That's why I'm saying that now it's on you to find this, to identify in your organization which are your common needs and challenges, and to identify at the level of the 14 countries that are part of the Danube Transnational Program to identify the organizations that have the same needs and challenges as you, or if they are different, to commonly identify what you have in common, because this is the only way to identify common needs and challenges. And one advice that comes from experience is to allocate the best human resources in your organization to these projects. And when I'm saying that, it will be in your interest to allocate the persons that have the vision, that understand what these projects, what is the real added value of these transnational projects, and persons that are able, after the end of the project, to convince the national stakeholders to convince them to further take on board the results and capitalize the results and in the mainstreaming projects. Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, the Danube Transnational Program includes 14 countries, but they are not only EU member states. 9 of them are EU member states, but then we have 5 which are not. 3 of them are coming from potential candidate countries. We have 2 countries which are neighboring countries, which also means that we are using different funding instruments. We are using the IPA, the instrument for pre-accession assistance, and then we are using also, most likely in the near future, the ENI, the instrument for neighboring, the European neighboring instrument. So, in the past programming period, in the Southeast Europe program, the IPA financial contribution has been fully integrated in the RDF one, which means that we aligned the IPA partners to the RDF ones in every aspect of the project preparation, implementation, and closure. So I would like to ask to Ms. Simic why the full participation of IPA partners is an added value for the DTP projects.
I don't know. I like Vicente's question more. No, joking. I was born on River Danube, so I could speak about value added and why the region is special for ages. Joking. The IPA countries are really looking forward for this opportunity, and really it's of extreme importance for the partners to be involved even with this small portion of funding, but to be involved in full scale in activities, in project activities. We would like to see as much as possible the visible results of the projects in order to promote what is ahead of us, let's say, but also to see innovative, and all of us were speaking about that, something new, new partners and new ideas in order to make this program more successful, and also to make bigger impact on our territory. Although we are having a lot of restrictions, we don't have mainstream programs, so we cannot combine a lot of instruments. You know, there is no big space for non-member states, even smaller space for neighboring countries. It doesn't mean that we will not be active. Also, what I wanted to say is that we were involved in previous period in CATSES, and then as Imre said, in Southeast Europe program, but still there are not a lot of people that are aware of the opportunities and possibilities of the program. We're trying to promote it in our territories. So I would like to invite also the people who proposed the 50 projects that are over there to contact us in order to search the best partners from our territories, and all that with the name to make the biggest impact of the money that we have on our disposal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciated. I'm not going to be the only one posing questions today, so I would like to ask Eloy if we have questions, for instance, from our followers from Twitter. No specific questions. Okay, then the floor is yours. If you have any question to our panelists, please raise your hand, state your name, your institution and country, and also the name of the panelist member that you would like to ask the question. Don't be shy.
Kívánok. Dobar den. Hello everybody.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Marek.
I am Zdravko Rusev from Czech Republic. Maybe I have a question or maybe I have a recommendation. When we talk about the strategy, usually we have ready infrastructure for this strategy. What does it mean? We have too many projects, too many results. I think that if we spend 2 billion euro or more, we have back 10 million euro. I never heard about it today. That means effective results from the project. Let's talk about the infrastructure. Some tell very nice word, infrastructure. If we start with the project, with strategy, we need to be ready with information system for these ideas. Danube and Interreg prepared too many projects with data, but I never heard that we have compatible space data information system in this whole space, from Bulgarian to the Germany. Each country, each regional development ministry has different data for their area, for their countries. And this different data is also for the Danube area. Let's firstly prepare the data for each participants. And when we talk about your project idea is focusing to this idea, for this goal, for this strategy. I read some announcements. How to locate immigrants in Danube area, maybe something like this. Is it a project? I think no. Firstly, we need to prepare infrastructure for the strategy. 15 years, we have different space information system, formats for cadastre, for geographical information system, and we can't use it together. That means different countries. Let's think about it. I wish you success, and I can help you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I understand this was not a question. Yes. Actually, if I can comment on your comment, we can say
Sorry, the question is, have we this infrastructure for these projects and for this strategy?
To whom are you asking the question? To whoever wants to answer.
For each of you. For European Commission and for the Danube Traditional Management Program.
I can answer you, apparently. Actually, what you said, we can also see on the other way around. So it is true that the strategy could have offered you this opportunity, but maybe the strategy is also being created because there was this gap. And this could be eventually covered by a strategic project, which could eventually create the framework to provide common data and harmonized data in 14 countries. It was actually the case also in the previous programming period for some projects which were dealing with flood risk management, for instance, where they managed to have some data harmonized in 10 countries covering the Danube. So we are providing this possibility. I know that it would be better on the other way around, but unfortunately we have to live up with what we have, and I think that the Danube Transnational Program is actually giving a quite strong contribution to this direction. Do we have other questions?
Okay, I probably have the microphone. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria Kubankova from the Czech Republic. I have a question to the representative of the Baden-Württemberg country. I'm sorry if I understood your function incorrectly. You mentioned the connection to the EU national programs. You discussed a lot the interaction between the Danube Transnational Program and the Danube Strategy and the capitalization of the result. And my question is, if you suppose or recommend the cooperation between individual project, our project, and our national EU programs. My limited experience from the Central Interreg Europe program, or I know that in the Central Interreg Europe program, there was also a recommendation to provide a connection between the individual project and the EU national program devoted to the country. So I know if you can understand, if you can explain if this connection is also recommended or required in the Interreg Danube program. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, I think you didn't correctly understand my function. I'm working for the State Ministry in Baden-Württemberg, and I'm acting as the national or the regional coordinator in this case for the Danube strategy in Baden-Württemberg. That means on one hand side coordinating all the activities within the region, but on the other side representing the region in the strategy and cooperating with the other national coordinators. I mentioned the mainstream operational program because they are actually the biggest funding source for the different activities, be it infrastructure, but also concerning development of human capital, if we look at the European Social Fund, for example. And it was already mentioned 260 million euros roughly won't change the world. So this can only be an impulse for further investment, for further activities. And actually the cooperation between the different countries, so the transnational exchange can develop new solutions or can develop the transfer of activities, can jointly work on policy approaches, but then it comes to the implementation in the different countries. And there, of course, we have to look for whatever funding source is appropriate. That could be an investment program that really builds up bridges and roads, but it could also be a national funding source that develops training activities. It could be the building up of capacities within the administration based on the results of transnational projects. So I'm really convinced if we end with a project without looking how it could fuel into further activities, we will somehow lose this money. So we should think beyond the end of the transnational project, and there it's more than obvious that we have to look at the operational programs. And actually, if you look into the operational programs, in each of them there is a chapter on the coherence with the transnational and the cross-border programs, and also on the linkage to the macro-regional strategies in which a country is involved.
I'm sorry, I received the microphone, so may I pose the next question? My name is Susanna Kotish-Cooper. I'm working for the Danube Strategy, Water Quality Priority Area. And first of all, I would like to express the appreciation on behalf of our stakeholders, because the Programming Committee and also the Joint Secretariat has been very supportive in the past years, and they provided information to our stakeholders, which we appreciate, and we look forward for that in the future. My question that I would like to pose is related that we will have a stakeholder conference on the 19th and 20th of November here in Budapest, where we will also introduce other funding programs, funding possibilities. Also, we are preparing for the next call, as the deadline will be already off for this first call. The question that I would like to pose regarding water projects, will there be a thematic restriction in the second call, as then we can influence our stakeholders to finalize the consortium and submit a successful application this year? So this is the question I would like to pose to Alessandra. Thank you.
Thank you. I wasn't supposed to take the questions, but we don't know that yet. The second call has not been discussed or decided yet. We are just going to discuss about the first call in the afternoon. So definitely this is something that we don't know that yet. Yes, there is a gentleman. Okay.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Stefan Daskolov from Bulgarian, Alliance for Environment and Agency for Sustainable Development of Euro Integration. A short answer to my old colleague Zdravko Rusev from the Czech Republic. It's really important to have an integrated database, but such database for the infrastructure on territory is already existing. We developed this in the past cross-border cooperation program Bulgarian and Romanian for the along the Danube River for both territories. This database is proposed integrated with cadastre, with natural resources, with risk management. This database is approved by the Joint Research Center, the European Commission, and is a good base for developing all kinds of projects we're speaking about here. One project, my colleague is unfortunately not here, maybe outside, but one of the projects is the risk data based on for the older territory. We discussed this with Baden-Württemberg, with Peter Friedrich 2 years ago, but we have to develop it in the next step. This is only the short answer, but it's a good driver for all the kinds of projects, from cultural up to environmental resources and navigation and what you mean. My question, no, my proposal is to reduce the 50% owner contribution co-financing for NGOs. Thank you for the attention.
So can you please repeat your question? And and please state to whom you're addressing the question.
The question was maybe for the afternoon session. I not understand correctly. The 15% co-financing for the partners or lead partners, which means is this over-contribution from NGOs, for example, only from lead partner or for all the partners? But this is maybe later.
Okay. Yes, we will go through all this in more careful details in the afternoon, so I will just wait for, I will ask you for your patience a bit, and you will receive your answer in a couple of hours, promised.
Thank you.
Can the panelists ask the questions? Can the panelists ask the question? If the JTS can answer, we can. No, it was just something that was provoked by a lady over there speaking about mainstream programs, and I think that in this financial perspective, Commission introduced one very nice instrument. It's called ITI, Integrated Territorial Investment, the opportunity for the funds to communicate, or for the programs to communicate, for the mainstream to communicate with transnational, to combine programs when there is some project in place. So this is maybe a question or for Vicente, or maybe just an information. Maybe we should also be informed about how we can use it in order to better use different programs, because, for example, Serbia is having cross-border cooperation programs and transnational programs that are overlapping with the territories, and in order to make best use of the programs, maybe we can explore this possibility if possible. I don't know.
I think that, Sandra, you are referring to this integrated territorial ITI. Yeah, this is an instrument that the regulation foresees. I have the impression that this is being used mainly in the country-specific programs, because they try to pull resources from different programs with a clear identification. But this could be very much related, as you say, with a strategy. For example, it's coming to my mind that in the Atlantic strategy, For example, Spain has created what they call the Blue ITI. So it's a kind of soft structure where there is a monitoring indicators that from all programs, the regional programs in the area, in the Atlantic area, in the Spanish Atlantic area, or also the cooperation program in the transnational Atlantic. So they have created this instrument in order to permit a proper monitoring throughout the period, so they will produce and they can report on how all programs are contributing to the strategy. So this could be used for, this is very much related for a case like the Danube, no? So that a country would decide that there is a kind of ITI inside to report and to monitor how all the programs of the country, of this area, are contributing to the Danube. So this is mainly, this instrument is integrated territorial investment, that's it.
Thank you. We have the last question.
Thank you. My name is Richard Miller. I'm from Global Water Partnership, Central and Eastern Europe. And hopefully I will have a question to the panel. It's to any member of the panel, because we have a structure that is the strategy, then the program, and then there will be projects. And of course the projects will contribute to fulfillment of the strategy and the implementation. My question now is whether you foresee any kind of mechanisms how results of these projects could then feed into the possible update of the strategy. Because there will be enormous amount of knowledge that will be created at the end. So whether you plan to utilize it and to go beyond the program and directly to the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. To whom are you asking the question?
Well, to any member of the panel who can answer the question.
The objective is to use all the synergies and potentials in the most efficient and effective way. So we have started in the program to discuss now for the project, for the first call, the elements, information to the applicants, assessment criteria, and so on. We will continue to discuss other formats of communication, interlinkages, arrangements in order to ensure these or to support the information flows where it is needed. And of course, so the efforts are not to separate, to create two separate worlds, but to be a partner of becoming one world with one element. As I said, I'm convinced that the crucial element is on the national level, because on the national level you can always bring together these partners. To give you an example, in Austria, for the preparation of the participation in this program, we have from the very beginning invited all the Danube strategy actors to discuss with us, to learn with us, although they could decide on themselves whether they are interested in this specific subject or not, but we have tried to establish one world from the very beginning, and we will continue to do so on the national level, but I think we are, on the monitoring committee, also within our limited, with our limited resources and instruments, we will also try to contribute to this bridging efforts.
Thank you. We are a bit running out of time, so just to conclude the session, I would like to ask the panelists if they can define in maximum 6 words the Danube Transnational Program.
From what I hear, I could briefly say, big success is expected. Is expected.
what should I say, we are entering today with this kickoff meeting into a new era of cooperation, and let's use all the opportunities that are offered.
I will use only 4 words: challenges, opportunities, hope, and future.
The program is no administrative exercise, but it is as such a partnership endeavor. And I think this is the interesting part of the exercise.
Identify real needs, understand the cooperation spirit, identify the best partners, and you will make good use and efficient use of the resources. I think these were not 6 words.
Be creative.
Thank you. So if I can summarize, actually, I think that the discussion that we had today can be summarized with these few words that have been said by the panelists. Again, we have to live up with the expectations that you have on us. So you are expecting us to be successful. We will work hard for that. And there are challenges, opportunities, we said, hope for the future. We are actually looking at the partners themselves, so the partnership, the cooperation. We are expecting you to be innovative, and I would like to close the thing also saying that strategic. So we are trying to do our best in order to make the program strategic, and we are looking at you in order to submit to us strategic projects. So I would like to thank all the panelists, and I don't want to keep you from lunch, so I think we have one announcement before. Thank you very much from our side.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the participation of all panelists. I hope you now have more clear picture about differences and links with the EU strategy and the program. Otherwise, you can always visit our website, where there is a specific section for the EU strategy for the Danube region, where the differences are highlighted. I would like to mention that now you have time for lunch, and the participants here on the plenary hall. But for those following our event web streaming, we will project a video for them, and then afterwards we will have interviews to 5 potential applicants. They have experience in previous projects, so they will be interviewed by a colleague of mine during this lunch break, but for the web streaming. So I invite them, the viewers, to continue watching our session. And I wish you a lovely lunch. We are back at 2:30, sorry, and we will try to be on time, because we have a very important session concerning the first call that was launched today. Thanks.
They were two there, but we can. They're on the and on the
last one. So you can put the video.